Awesome. So you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, cool. So, hello everyone. My name is Robert LaFrance. Welcome back to the LaFrance Paradigm, where we learn and share strategies for an impact. Today, I have an awesome guest, veteran entrepreneur and father, considered the tactical traveler, Mr. John Renken, with us today. And I'm really excited because as a veteran entrepreneur and father myself, when I first started kind of going down this like area of coaching, consulting, just trying to serve and give back to the veteran community, the parenting community, and then entrepreneurs as well, I was like, wow, veteran entrepreneur fathers, that's like a crazy hyper focused niche. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to connect or resonate with that niche audience. And it turns out that today's guest matches all three of them, and he has a ton of stories and transformation of growth from the very beginning, how he went from being a fighter to now he's over here as the tactical traveler, helping you do the same and learn from his stories of impact. So, John, if you want to do a, quick in your own words, nutshell of who you are and what you're here to do, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, man. So thanks so much for having me on today. And I love it. And I don't think that that's too targeted. You could probably even burrow it down a couple more. Yeah. So for me, I served in the Army from 93 to 96 when the first Ultimate Fighting Championships came out. I saw it on TV and I was like, that's what I want to do with my life. Started professionally fighting 3 months after I got out of the Army, and never looked back. And then in 2000, I got hired to be a coach for the military, training the military in hand-to-hand combat. And cool. I joke, man, I went from the fight guy to the flight guy. And, because travel has always resonated with me, and, being able to see the world as a fighter. And, even before then, which is funny, I never went anywhere in the military or even right after I got out of the military. Oh, wow. And then all of a sudden I started professionally fighting, and I went to 9 countries, and then I did a couple of missions trips with my church, and that I've just fallen in love with it.
That's so cool. That's really cool too. And that's funny that the same, a similar experience happened to me too. I joined the Navy to travel and see the world, get away from my family. My first duty station, I was an hour and a half away from my family. And I was like, oh, but this must be happening for a reason, and yeah. That's actually where, my military career is where I became extremely family oriented. Before I enlisted, I was like, let's travel and do our own independent thing. And I was like, okay, now I got to be here for my mom. I should be here for my dad. My sister's having a baby. Maybe I should be in Virginia Beach because that's closer to Orlando, Yep. And people are like, bro, you picked Virginia Beach over Hawaii. And I was like, yeah, I wanted to be closer to family at the time. So, but it's funny how that happens, So 9 countries as a professional fighter. And now, were you also doing the traveling for the military as? Okay.
Yeah, so that actually all kind of started by accident. I won't make it political, but it's a political story. In 2015, as I was looking at the projections for the training calendar in 2016, I was traveling a lot more than I had been. And as I sat there and I thought about it, I had really 2 major thoughts going through my head. How can I do these trips with the military and not have to pay so much, which means more money in my pocket? But the second part of it was, in 2015, I was seriously confronted with the idea that after 16 years, I might not have a job, because typically speaking, Democratic candidates cut the military budget. Republican candidates tend to spend the military budget. And I didn't think there was any way in God's green earth that Donald Trump was going to be the president. So I had really planned on not having a job. And so I asked myself, well, what else would I like to do? Like, what else could I do? I mean, I've been punching people in the face for over 20 years by that point. And
probably tired of chewing bubble gum too.
Yeah, right. So I end up, figuring out this travel piece, and didn't want to be a travel agent because most of them make less than 20 grand a year, which with 4 kids just is not a very feasible business model. And, I just decided to take a stab at it. And, lo and behold, I stayed there for another couple of years. COVID finally ended my government contract. But because I had that time, I was able to kind of build around the travel piece and really make it into something.
That's awesome. So I want to focus on that part. It seemed like you were aware of some, upcoming shifts that you were going to have, and also like you were just planning to pivot, whether you could keep fighting for a long time or if you wanted to pursue something else. So about how long ahead of time, or what steps did you have to do before that transition made itself, needed? How much time did you put into that to get ready, or to be ready for when that shift happened, I should say?
Yeah, so the pivot really was a mindset issue, right? So I realized I was getting older. I realized, hold on one second, my kids.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got John disciplining his children. That's what we love about being fathers here. We can mute the microphone and be like, "Hey,
hey." My daughter loves to antagonize her younger brother.
Oh, of course.
So really, for me, it was about a pivot in mindset first, right? Because truly, as an entrepreneur, you should be nimble enough to pivot, right? So I just had to figure out kind of how to pivot, how I could do it while still being a contractor, and what was the biggest pain point for the average consumer, right? And it's no secret really in travel, the pain point for the majority of people is flights. So I decided to become a specialist in flights and figure out how to get them for way less money. And I started doing that before Scott's Cheap Flights was ever a thing,
Wow.
So he's just a little more successful than I have been. And then once I made that shift, then I had to rebrand, because everybody who knew me as a professional fighter, knew me as a guy that had been training the military for fighting. So you would never think to call John for travel. So that's where this whole fight guy to flight guy rebrand came from. So,
Hey, John, I'm looking for some travel and security. Do you have any availability?
yes. Right. Yeah. So, and it's so cool. Yesterday, I got the greatest text message. One of my buddies, he's been a friend of mine for almost 30 years, texted me and says, "Hey, I was at lunch with this guy." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I know that guy." He goes, "Yeah." So he was asking me where I started training jiu-jitsu at. And I told him I trained with you. And he goes, "Oh, you mean the travel guy?" Like, the guy completely did not connect that I was a fighter. And I was like, mission accomplished.
Oh yeah, that is awesome.
So, and I really think that before there can be any kind of pivot transition, there has to be a change in the mindset. And no matter what we're talking about.
So how did you navigate that with, like, because so you mentioned like, okay, I knew I didn't want to be a travel agent because they're capped, their earnings are capped, which is something that we should probably touch on another time too, is like same thing with retirement, the people that hold the retirement accounts, they make six figures or whatever. But if you're trying to become wealthy, do you want to be using that person, or do you want to be more in charge and direct your own investment funds
Right.
yourself? So, but so like, as you're like, okay, I don't want to be a travel agent, how did you kind of identify choosing the flights? I know that's the place that everybody wants to save money, and you explained how you chose that. But now that you identified flights, you're going out there, you're looking at competition, you're looking at other resources out there to either model after, to replicate, or to see what the marketplace is like for you to become competitive. What were some of the factors that you considered in that decision-making process? Because for me, as someone who's, especially, or anybody, a coach today, like, how do you compete against other coaches outside of being super hyper focused and being the individual that you are, So travel being the industry that it is, I'm sure that came with its own challenges.
Yeah. So first of all, travel's an $8 trillion a year industry pre-COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably about 3 trillion now. So it's an enormous amount of money. So the truth is that I didn't have to compete against anybody, because it's so enormous Are you really loyal to Expedia?
No,
No,
no, I
right?
do a
Yeah,
Google search every time.
right. So what I found was that I had to just do what all good entrepreneurs and problem solvers do, which is I had to provide a bunch of insane value, build trust, and then make a sale. And that's what I did. So I started Facebook groups where it was all about travel, no overt sales, just providing insane value. Here's how you hack a flight. Here's how you hack a hotel. Here's how you do this. Here's how you do that. PDFs, ebooks, right? Just over and over and over. Here's freebies here. Here's freebies here. And then I just moved people along the chain of a sales cycle and then sold. And, and I made it clear from the beginning that, to me, the value add was making sure you got the best deal. And I've done this over the course of the last couple of years, where even if I didn't have the best deal, I told you I didn't, you should go here. And what I found is it really developed a lot of consumer loyalty, because I wasn't afraid to go, Expedia beat me today. You should go buy it from Expedia.
Yeah. Because that's what you're really doing is you're building that rapport of being a trustworthy guy. I mean, like you were just saying, no matter what area you are as an entrepreneur, you want people to know, like, and trust you and be able to follow you through that sales funnel or that sales process. And you were just like, hey, man, I have integrity. This strategy works most of the time. And today another competitor got me beat. So, obviously in the hopes and the goal of saving money to do travel, great. That option is the best one today. So that's awesome. So you've gone through a lot of life changes. You've gone through a fighter. You did a few years in the military as a ranger. Are you still wearing ranger panties to this day?
As a matter of fact, I have a pair on there right now.
Yes, sir. Silkies.
Yeah,
Man, I've been
they're the best underwear ever.
Yeah, man. Since those guys have launched like this, the Ranger panties and the Silkies, the brand, man, those guys are living off the hype. What a great idea.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I still wear them today.
They're the best. Yeah, they're the best. So early life, you were a fighter. Now, a little bit about myself. I've trained most of my life in martial arts too. I never became a professional fighter, but I loved self-defense and what it brought both mentally and physically. I focused a lot on, like, as a young kid, I focused on karate, kung fu, all the martial arts places that you can kind of see as a kid in my area growing up. And then as I became a teenager, I got involved with Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Oh,
and
nice.
then, it's awesome. That's my favorite. I was loving that. I could do that all day. I can't wait to start doing it again, actually, in training. And then I got into Muay Thai. I trained with a guy that was in the Navy with me. He was stationed out west, and he would actually train and fight out in Thailand. And this guy, I haven't seen you in person, but he's your build. Like, I see how you are, and I'm like, at the time I was like 180, and this dude's like 6'2", 6'3", but probably 250.
Right.
And just making me see the white light all the time. But we would train and do jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, and it was just one of my favorite things. And I feel like those two are great. So I just wanted to, like, talk about myself for a second.
Yeah.
I love martial arts too. So as you, like, got through your fighting career, just walk us a little bit about the life stages that you had experienced, because you have had a lot of transformation. You were an Army Ranger.
Yeah.
I see on your website you met Chuck Norris here, and you've always been a fighter. Yeah. So we can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. I've been in martial arts since I was a kid, but was not really happy with it. Wrestled in high school, was not a great wrestler because it was real tall and skinny. So it was hard to wrestle. I was 5'10", 125 pounds. So everybody just could shoot and I couldn't because I was just so much taller, right? But stuck with it and started doing martial arts, started doing kung fu. And then in 93, I ended up doing Taekwondo. I ended up ranking nationally, was third ranked in the nation in my weight class, and then decided to join the Army. Knew I wanted to be a warrior, knew I wanted to be a fighter, but wasn't really sure what that looked like. Didn't really know what my life looked like. Wasn't the greatest student as far as like English and math and stuff. Was really good at history and speech and stuff like that, but not really a great student. And so I joined. Thought I was going to go do the Taekwondo team for the Army. That got squashed like right away. They were like, "No, you're going in the infantry, and you're gonna jump out of helicopters."
That's just as
and
fun.
then yeah,
I
no,
think.
air assault was so much fun, and I was so happy. Got to do Ranger School, got to do Airborne School, and a bunch of those kind of things. But while I was in the Army, the first UFC came out. My squad leader played judo and introduced me to ground fighting.
Nice.
And we started training 2-3 times a week. And then that first UFC came out, and I was like, boom, life has, like, I was fulfilled. I knew what I wanted. And, then I started fighting while in the Army. I was driving down to Nashville, Tennessee, fighting in bars every weekend that did boxing smokers. And I had 20 fights in a bar for beer money. Like,
Wow.
I just would go down and kickbox and box every Tuesday and Thursday night. I was down there. They thought I was crazy. And I probably was, to be honest. And then when I got out, I started training with a jiu-jitsu gym, but it wasn't Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It was jiu-jitsu and judo, basically.
Yeah.
And then was doing Thai boxing. And then, really just, got connected with a guy who put me in for my first fight, which was in an abandoned house, 20 below zero.
Wow.
In a 4-man tournament, had a hoodie on and a beanie, and when it was our turn, like on a wood floor, like we just went to town. And I fell in love, man. I mean, it was everything I wanted it to be. Started training more, over the course of the years, became a crew in Muay Thai. Got my first degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Robert Drysdale. Phenomenal guy. Helios Mecca, and started training in the Army. I had 70 pro fights. But as you know, that's a young man's game. So as I started getting up there, 35, 36 years old, trying to make a living, trying to provide for my family. At this point, I've got 2 kids. I've got a third on the way, and I was already training the military, but it wasn't like a full-time income. So I made a pivot, made it a full-time income, and got to do that for the last 20 years, which has been
so awesome.
The most amazing thing ever, because I really got to make a difference in guys' lives that were going overseas, shooting bad guys in the face, and what I did made a difference. So that's kind of where all that stuff came from. Just growing up as a kid, I always wanted to be a fighter. Read some Norse mythology books as a kid and thought I wanted to be the next Thor. I know.
Yeah. Man, I was a kid and I saw Con Air. I don't know how old I was, but as soon as I saw Con Air, I was like, that's exactly who I want to be when I grow up. I want to be like Nicolas Cage, dude was a good guy in a bad position, but he kicked ass in that one scene. And I was like, that's exactly who I want to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I started interviewing the recruiters and everything. And I was like, I already feel like I'm a Marine. I should just, enlist and earn the title, and I did the same thing. I was like, okay, I want to be a welder, but nobody can guarantee me what I wanted in the service except for the Navy. And then so I was like, all right, cool, let's go Navy. And then they're like, okay, cool, divers do underwater welding. That's kind of in line with your stuff. You got to test for it, but pass the test, you get to go. So I was like, right on. That's the way I chose. And I was a Navy diver for 7 years. And
nice.
Yeah, it was fun. I have a lot of great stories, both from just being in the Navy and then also being a diver and doing some of the stuff that we did. And funny enough, it just brought me right into instruction, right into facilitating. I taught submarine escape for a few years, and then I went to school for workforce education development, which was right in line with our master training specialist qual as an instructor. You got to get these quals, right? And then I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go to MUDSU 2, Mobile Diving Salvage Unit 2, so I can be a deep sea hard hat diver, go out there, salvage, do the thing. And then I was a part of a team where I was, we deployed to Central and South America, which was a great time, but we did more diving. Oh yeah. Yeah. I can totally understand why the Secret Service got in trouble down there. Like, you got to be careful down there.
Right.
Yeah. So, but then we went down there and we did more diving information exchange. So more like teaching, but because of the mission of the deployment, it wasn't like teaching, it was information exchange. So that's kind of how it catapulted me into being here and being okay with having conversations with people like yourself who have gone through all different life experiences, but still been able to come out on top and talk about how they've done it so they could persevere and share with other people out there. Because right now, the way that the internet has changed everything, social media, the education requirements, self-education is the new norm now at this point, especially with COVID last year. Everybody's going to be doing their own self-directed education. And so this is just a huge thing. And this is where people get to look up to people like you and I and say, hey, these guys are doing it. Let's make our own version and go out there and make an impact. And that's one of the biggest things that helps me keep going through this is like when, because being in real estate for a few years, making cold calls and trying to get business that way, it's something that you got to do. It's the nature of the beast. But when you're coming from a place of service and you're like, hey, I get to have great conversations, I get to provide value and resources to people to help them become better. It's a different type of job. It's a different type of business. It's actually not a job at all. It's passion and fulfillment,
And the thing about it is this, man, and it's a cliche, but it's so true. Here's the bottom line. Do you want to go to slave for somebody else and work at a job that you cannot control your time clock, you can't control your wages, and you just do it because you need a paycheck? Or would you rather grind, suffer a little bit, set your own schedule, set your own salary, set your own potential, and live free? And, some people are okay with the slavery. Some people are not okay with it. And either way, it's fine. But the choice is really, do you want to be a slave to yourself or a slave to somebody else? Right. And I would pick a slave to myself every time. I've been, in 38 years of working, or not 38, what is it? 48. So 30 years of adult life. Out of that 30 years, I've only had 3 W-2s. The rest have been 1099s. Yeah. Everything from real estate to, combatives to now an online business. Like, I would just rather be my own slave.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with, I feel like you can make a course today and be good. If you put the hours in to make a good, valuable course and you leave it out there, it's on the internet, people are going to find it. And then you got that residual income aspect of people just buying your online courses.
Like, it doesn't matter what the course is either, right? Yeah. So you could put together a course and let's say it makes you $1,200 extra a month. Let's say it only makes you $300 extra a month.
Right. Yeah.
Like what's an extra $300 do for the average American?
Oh yeah, most people just want to make. Yeah, most people just want to make a couple $300 to $500 extra bucks a month. Like 1,000 would be life changing for so many people.
Yeah.
But yeah. So. Yeah, I feel like we could go on a rabbit hole conversation about the advantages of being a small business owner. If you're listening to this now and you don't already have a small business, you want to become a small business owner somehow, become an affiliate or a franchise or something where you can just start taking advantage of the tax write-offs. You're going to put more money in your pocket.
Yeah, bro, you're getting on my soapbox now, man. This is what I tell people. So think about this. All right. Because I know it's got a bad reputation, but it's really not that big of a deal. Sales is sales, okay? Everybody poo-poos network marketing, right?
Oh.
Like everybody does. But let's be honest. You get a 1099. You get tax write-offs that you don't have available as a W-2. And if you're a W-2 and you start a network marketing business, you're going to be able to deduct between $8,000 and $20,000 off your W-2 income, even if you don't sell a flipping thing. Like I don't care at this point if you think Amway is the worst thing since Satan's spawn. Like it's $8,000 to $12,000 on average. If you're smart, you're going to get 20.
Right.
Like, who cares?
Right.
And you get 5 years, according to the IRS, to make it into a profitable business.
Oh, nice.
5 years. Right? Anybody could suck at sales for 5 years to pocket 40 grand in tax. right?
Yeah.
And so I have this argument with people all the time. I'm like, dude, nobody's saying you're going to get rich because you suck at sales and you don't like the grind. Like, but if
Just
you
take
make
advantage.
$200-300 and you get tax write-offs, why are you like poo-pooing it?
Right,
But,
right.
you know, like it's
Take care of
crazy
your
to me.
family. How are you taking care of your family? Focus
Yeah,
on that before you got to focus on the reputation of it, you know? And
yeah.
you know, I'm
Like,
in network marketing too. I mean, my first
oh, cool.
experience in network marketing, I consider real estate network marketing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Real estate agents, they're working
Real
under a
estate and
brokerage.
insurance.
Yep. And insurance. You're working underneath a brokerage, allowing you to do
Yep.
business. They're getting a percentage of your sales, and you're your own business owner, uncapped earning
Yeah.
potential. And that's the
What
biggest
company
thing.
are you in?
Oh, so I'm with eXp Realty. I'm a real
Oh,
estate
cool.
agent.
Yeah,
And then I also provide legal resources with Legal Shield and ID Shield. So legal
Awesome.
and identity theft restoration.
Good for
And
you.
thank you. And you know, I got involved because one of my biggest things is like, hey, we get all these things around us that we have to, like, I have to live in a house. How can I leverage being a homeowner? You know, I need these other resources for my business or as a person being a homeowner. What services or resources do I need? And then as I became more involved in business, I was like, I'm going to leverage these resources to make me or to help me earn more money, get tax write-offs, and help myself and my family. Because when I see myself in 10 years, I see myself living a life that I want. I want to be working out as much as I want. I want to be traveling. I want to be doing paid events, workshops, and stuff like that. Most of my day isn't door knocking, calling 100 people to solicit a sale or something like that. I want to leverage these resources and help and empower other people for them to design their life their own way, whether it's owning 100 units of, you know, real estate or just learning how to invest 1 or 2 properties a year so you can generate that income, whether it's rental or long-term net worth, whatever, or you know. So
yeah, no, I mean, exactly. And this is what I try to explain to people all the time. So now I'm gonna throw a wrench on what I've been doing here. Think about how many soldiers you know, how many veterans you know that served in the military, were in E4, E5 when they got out. Their wife or their spouse worked at Logan's Steakhouse for, you know, $8 an hour, put their kids in childcare, which costs $1,200 a month or $600 a month, when they could have just started a side hustle with network marketing. And they could have walked out of the military after a 4 or 5 year commitment, banking $40,000 in taxable income that they didn't have to pay taxes on. Like, it's a no brainer, man. Like,
it is.
And, you know, if my squad leader had told me about this, I'd have been an Amway guy. Like, I mean, it's incredible what you can do with it. And the tax write-offs, how would you like your vacation to be a tax write-off?
Oh my gosh.
Right? Like, why would you not do this? So, like, so happy to hear that you're in it, because it teaches you such great skill sets, how to talk to people, how to grind, you know, how to be more fiscally aware of what's happening with your money. And now Uncle Sam is literally like a child molester, sticking his hands in your pockets without your permission and taking all the goodies. I mean, he's a pedophile.
Yeah,
you know?
The education is huge. I just did a training on self-directing. I mentioned this earlier today too, but like investing in real estate as a private lender. That's what I was more specifically going over. And if you were to look at if you're an investor and you look at your spread, you know, if you consider how the banks work or operate in our industry, you know, they have mortgages, you know, you invest your money in the bank CD, and then they have that money and they use it to go put mortgages out on houses, and then they make money on the spread and pay you back on the interest. Now, what can you do to get in the industry of banking? How can you put yourself in a position to prosper or help other people? And that's where it's really powerful. I mean, going back to what you were saying about getting a side hustle, learning an extra skill, you know, just working on yourself and how that could help you transition out of the military. One of my mentors, he paid for his wife. He bought his wife's contract out of the Navy. You know, he had gotten out a few years prior. He was really successful in the company. Next thing you know, he's like, hey, let's not do your last year and a half in the Navy. Let's buy your contract out. And they used our resources, and then they got over there and they bought it out. And that's awesome. And, you know, you always hear about that, joking with your buddies, like, oh, what are you going to do if you win the lottery? Or, oh, you know, I mean, oh, then, you know, you can't stay in the military if you win the lottery, right? Because you're not, you know, you're too loose. Is the joke. Yeah, you're too free. So I don't know where I was going with that one, but yeah, consider that. Consider learning a skill to help empower your
Yeah,
family.
and
So
look,
no matter what happens, you'll be ready.
maybe network marketing isn't it, right? So
Right.
like a lot of people have bad vibes about selling or whatever. Make it real estate, make it insurance, make it, if you don't want to do sales, maybe, like the great scene from The Accountant with, Ben Affleck, freaking make this silly little jewelry on the side. Like, this is one of the greatest scenes ever for small business. Ma'am, I see you have this little thing on your neck. She's like, oh, do you like it? And he's like, not particularly. He's like, but you might have what the IRS calls a small home-based business, and it would afford you, X amount of deductions. It's a great scene. And, so maybe you don't want to do sales. Start something, you know?
That's the biggest thing. And, what I see in the real estate realm, being a real estate agent, mentor, and property owner, is people get into real estate and they just think that they can, like, become an agent and help their friends and family buy or sell a house. And yeah, that's normally the case, but usually people already know 10 real estate agents. So you have to become more resourceful and provide more value than just opening doors for people. And after a few transactions myself, I was like, you know what? Agents are like the go-to real estate professional. Like, oh, I have something going on, real estate related need, I'm going to contact a realtor. But then I started seeing, I was like, okay, I'm making anywhere from 3 to 6% commission on the sale of the house. What about the homeowner? I'm about to sell a couple of my properties this year. And I'm like, that is way bigger payday than being an agent, So
Right.
as you're getting into whatever your side hustle is, you can buy and sell profit for a lot easier than becoming a real estate agent part-time, where you're having to jump through hoops and represent people. And if that's something that you want to do, go for it.
And look at the market right now, man. So, I'm at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, just outside Nashville, and we have a deficiency of 3,500 homes for just our next military cycle.
Wow.
So your average real estate agent is getting 30 offers on a home that are anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 over market value.
Right.
When that bubble crashes, man, like, it is not going to be fun to be in this town.
No, or have any of the vacant properties that they built and couldn't sell because it was just around that same timing. Yeah. Yep. So that's pretty. So okay, let's transition from business to meeting Chuck Norris. You were describing that fight scene earlier. Was that in one of your movies, or like how did this happen? Because that sounds like a scene.
So what happened was I met Guy Mesger, UFC fighter, and he was looking at bringing me on his show, the fight show he was running. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have anybody in my weight class. I was 165. They were all bigger guys, etc. So about 2 weeks before the fight show, he calls me and he goes, hey, I had a guy drop out. I know this was a long shot, but I wanted to see if you wanted to fight. And I go, yes. He goes, you didn't even hear who it was. And I was like, I don't care. I'll fight him. And he goes, well, it's against Jerry Bolander. And Jerry Bolander had just won UFC 8.
Okay. You're like, even more reason.
Yeah, I was like, I'll fight him. And guy's like, he outweighs you by 50 pounds. I'm like, that's fine. Like, I don't care. Yeah. And so I walked down there. They flew me down to Dallas and, all that stuff. And one of their guests, because it was in Dallas, Texas, was Chuck Norris. And so, I was, I don't remember if I was the main event, but I was at the tail end of the card because it was Jerry Bolander. They paid me exceptionally well, treated me great, because I was like, yeah, I'll fight that dude. I don't care. Let's go. And Chuck Norris came up, took a picture with me, and told me that I had the biggest balls he had seen in a long time, because I was obviously way smaller than Jerry. And I walked out there, I threw a leg kick right off the bat and scuffed it up and went for it, like I didn't care. I was confident in my skill sets, and I knew if I was going to beat him, I had to keep it standing, which didn't last, but so, and I had a great time. I fought because I love to fight. And I think I didn't do it for a career as far as to make money. I just did it because I loved it. It was my side hustle. I was trying to pay my way through Bible college. So every every couple of grand I would get from fighting really helped. And that's how I met Chuck Norris. That's how I got that picture.
That's a pretty awesome story, man.
Yeah,
That's really
man.
cool. And you have to have that mentality as a fighter anyway. Like, I'll fight him.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter the weight class. So
yeah,
I know it matters.
and I think as I watch the UFC today, you can see who has that attitude. But I think that attitude has been lost in the way that the game has evolved and the way that guys have to train now and how all that stuff matters and sponsorships. They're definitely better fighters than we were back then. But I think some of that passion got lost in the business of it.
Yeah. I liked watching K1 and Pride, like when I was watching it. I mean, I feel like you could just sense the energy difference.
I loved fighting on Pride. That was a great show. I don't know if you knew that, but I fought on Pride 9.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You got a lot of content. Like, you have a significant fighting career. It's not just like, oh, here's a couple of shots. Like, there's actually a brand of content there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I mean, so when I was fighting, I was called the fighting preacher, so like I had a pretty big following, and, it was before social media and before, what we do now. But I mean, I just so loved it.
How do they connect? Like, do you ever see anything like that or get those questions?
I get them all the time.
Cage fighting for Jesus, I think, is what I saw.
Yeah. So there was actually a documentary that was done about me in this entire connection. So that is not a strange question. I have had that question every year of my life since like 1996.
Wow.
And so I was in college to be a minister. I was in Bible college, and I was fighting professionally. And people were always, even back then, like, how can you do that? And I'm like, it's a sport. To me, it was the same as football or boxing or hockey. I'm like, we even have jokes. Like, I went to the hockey game, or I went to a fight and the hockey game broke out, right?
Yeah.
So like, I never understood in the minds of everybody else the disparity. Like, it's a professional sport. Who cares? Like, and that was my whole thing. Like, it's a sport. You punch people in the face for fun, and that's it. Hold on. I'm going to tell my youngest that he's got to take it down a level.
Someone's about to get the people's elbow in the back room.
No, it's just like he's playing a video game with his cousin, and he gets so loud. Hold on one second.
I got to do the same thing with my dogs. No sweat. Like, I'll just, hey.
Yeah. It's like, come on, man. Like, you saw me on the phone.
Yeah.
So they end up doing this documentary called Fight Church that's on Netflix. Was one of the top downloaded movies of 2014. Wow. I was on the front page of the New York Times about it. And it's all about the question, how can you love your neighbor and punch him in the face? And I'm like, really easy, just like this.
Yeah. That's how I'm able to love them, because I'm able to do that.
And, and I wish I could have found the footage. So there used to be an old school video magazine called Fight World. And in it, it had footage of me praying with other fighters who were about to fight. I just never really got all the animosity and like, we're not friends. And like, I shoot the breeze with you and go eat pizza with you and punch you in the face. And it was just a sport to me,
Yeah.
So that documentary, which was done by some really great guys, did a great job of digging in and kind of looking at the phenomenon of being a Christian and being in a fighting sport. And some people didn't like it. Some people loved it. And all the media outlets like either loved me or hated me.
Right. Yeah. For me, the initial thought was like, wow, violence and, faith, like it's.
Yeah. And so I was on the Megyn Kelly show. She's a lawyer, right? And I was like, well, first of all, let's set our terms. What is the root word of the word violence? And it's to violate. And I said, so how do two willing participants walk into a cage together and violate each other? It's not possible.
Yeah.
So it's not truly violence.
Okay. You're experienced in that.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and a lot of people don't like that, but do we call football violent? Do we call hockey violent? Do we call
Yeah.
soccer violent? Soccer has more head trauma injuries than any other sport in the world by
Yeah.
far. By far.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up too, because I wanted to ask you earlier about like if you feel any of like physical repercussions from a long career in fighting, because even collegiate football players, they walk out with I don't remember the brain
TBI.
issue. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
TBI.
yeah, they get messed up just by playing football.
So, I'm sure that there's some. I just ignore it and do my life.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are days that I don't remember what I'm supposed to. And like I just go, yeah, all right, whatever. Like
Yeah.
let's just get back to work. And I'm sure there's some cognitive decline because of getting punched in the face, but I'm not gonna spend any time crying about it. I loved every minute of it.
Oh yeah. Well, I asked because I mean, the boxers, like career boxers and how you can just see them dwindle away, and like, not
Yeah.
to say that I see any of those effects with you now, but, being just your age, have you
Well,
noticed anything?
yeah, no, not really. But here's the other thing. So there's a big difference between MMA and boxing in this regard, because MMA, I don't have to finish the fight by punching you in the face. I can
Mm.
choke you, I can armbar you. Like there's so many other options available, submissions, that I don't have to do head trauma to win, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
that's a good point.
even when there is head trauma in MMA, there's no MMA fighter that's taken 400 shots to the head a night. It's just not happening, right?
Right.
So, but you know,
I love hearing your son in the background. Like, it sounds like
oh
there's a
my
fight about
God,
to happen now. Yeah, that's super
yeah.
cool.
So,
So if you could go back and like, give if you could go back and give some of our like military families members like some piece of advice as they're going into their career, transitioning, or they've established their career and now they're looking at where they want to go, what kind of advice would you give back to them looking back at all the things that you've done?
so the first thing I would say is, as soon as you sign the dotted line, start a business, um, because your identity as a soldier, a Marine, a sailor, as whatever they call the Air Force people who don't even serve. Just joking.
Yeah, I was like, wait, is there something, do I not know?
Yeah, like
Airmen.
yeah, I don't know what they're called. I don't think they're called airmen, are they? Because the big like there's women in the Air Force. I don't think they call them
Oh
airmen.
yeah, that's all new
Um,
for me too. Understanding the different identifiers.
craziness. Yeah, but the joke, right? The Air Force doesn't really work. They don't really serve.
Yeah, the
Like they
chair
sit at
forces.
desks. Yeah, the
Yeah.
chair force, right? So, but I would tell them to start a business, because your identity as whatever that category is, sailor, Marine, Army, whatever, only lasts for a short time, even if you go 20 years. And from working with the Army for 20 years, what I noticed was one of the biggest problems was they had no identity of what it meant to be a man or a woman once that career path was over. And they were
Wow.
completely lost. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to go contract? And, my body's beat up. Do I really want to go fight bad guys as a civilian now? Right. So start a business, find something you're passionate about from day one, and use your time in the military to build that so it's a self-sustaining income by the time your 3, 5, 10, 20-year stint is over. Don't buy new cars. Don't fall into the E1 trick of, now you have a guaranteed paycheck, let's put you on an allotment for a $500 a month vehicle, right? And be smart. And man, we have such a niche market that need our help, that need people that will come back, reach back and invest in them and show them that there's a way forward. Hey, I need you to take it down like 20 levels.
Okay. Can I not Can you not send it to my phone? Can I use it on the Xbox or PS4 on it?
Yeah, I still have, but don't do it yet. So begging for money. And when you look at that, that's so important, man. And when you look at how much they can potentially save / make, makes sense to keep your spouse at home.
Yeah.
Instead of sending them off to daycare and dealing with all those struggles. And and again, I don't care if it's Uber or network marketing or real estate. Do something.
Yeah, for sure.
Something that's a 1099.
I'm happy to hear that too, because reflecting back to my years as a junior sailor, looking around, making my own, analysis of like what my career is going to look like now that I'm out of A school, now that I'm a diver, I'm at the escape trainer. Now, now I'm getting qualified. Now I get relocated, then I get requalified, and this process goes over again. Is this something that I'm passionate about and I want to do for another, 20 years? And am I okay with that process? And then also, what can I do, or can I do anything better on my own? And that's just kind of how I felt after I re-enlisted and I got down to Mutsu, and I was like, you know what? I understand that there's like security and training and, benefits of being a military member, but there's also benefits and all those same things for being a veteran. And I think that I can still financially retire my family by 39, even if I get out and start 7 years later.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that was my biggest thing, is that I wasn't starting over. And what a lot of people, I try to understand or try to get this into transitioning military members too, is that like, you're not starting over, you're not quitting, you're not starting from scratch. Oh, you want to do something for 7 years and then quit? Like, that's not what you're doing. You will have one hell of a launch pad with transferable skills, whether you are a 1099 or a W-2, so like the biggest thing is I really support with what you're saying is building an identity outside of the military service as a business owner, man. And what that's going to do for you, contributing to the marketplace, adding value, creating and nurturing camaraderie. That's why a few weeks ago when I was like, what were my 3 biggest pain points when I was getting out of the military? I felt alone. I wanted some camaraderie. I wanted a sense of purpose, and I wanted some financial stability. That doesn't mean that you have to become a millionaire, but like, how can I make a living and earn a living at the same time? And then I was like, those are my 3 pain points. And that's what I'm going to help other veteran entrepreneur fathers identify and connect with, whatever that means to them. Because once you do that, like we were talking earlier in the show, is like when you have your crew of people that are on the same perspective and have the same money background, then business and growth is so much simpler than the hustle it takes to get started, and then you can really enjoy that process. Be around people who are good for you and are positive and running the distance with you, not like holding you back, not just talking shop all day.
Totally agree.
That's super cool. So what's next for you, John? What are you working on right now? What are your top 3 priorities, and what are you doing to accomplish them?
Yeah, so the top 3 priorities is I'm growing that travel group for the military. I've got over the course of through travel and obviously being a veteran, I figured out a couple of tricks. Like, so if you've served or are still serving, you get a complimentary stay at the Bahamas every year. And I'm really using that as my hook, right? Like, I provide free value that doesn't cost you anything. Here's how you do it. Go take it. Go to the Bahamas. Take your wife. Take your kids. Get out of the country, right? And through that group is also my own podcast, The Tactical Traveler, and then my coaching and working with high-end clients who need help with sales, who need help with leadership and mindset stuff, and really working with them to help them increase their sales by 25%. Those are my top 2 priorities. And I've got it was funny because I was just sitting down yesterday coursing, kind of plotting out my course for the next year. And I've already got multiple streams. Now it's taking those multiple streams of income to a higher level. How do I do that? And really digging down. And so that's really what's next.
Good for you, man. Good for you. I'm proud of you. You're probably proud as well, being able to build those multiple streams of income to a point where now you can look around and say, hey, where do I want to go? For me, the last 5 years for me have been really challenging because I had gone through transitioning. I became a new father. I had gotten married, and then I also had found myself in an abusive relationship, got divorced while starting my real estate business,
Yeah.
so like, although I've definitely generated over six figures, it hasn't felt like I've been able to keep much. But now today I'm able to look back like, oh wait, I made a good decision 5 years ago where I have rental
Right.
properties and now I can sell those. And now it's not
Sure.
as, so I'm really looking forward to realizing the good decisions I made previously.
Yeah, that's definitely something we could talk about too, to all the veteran guys, all the guys going in. Hey man, pay attention to where you put your stuff, because she might not be there and be like me and cost me $225,000 in legal fees to get custody of my kids, right? So
That is absolutely another conversation we have to have. It's, like being an alienated parent or father fighting for your kids is such a challenging conversation that, like,
yeah,
although we have value and insight to add to people, at the same token, it's not something that me personally, I can talk about all the time. It's not my
yeah,
niche.
it's hard. It's hard, man. It's rough emotionally, right? So,
Yeah. Well, I'm
but
glad that you said that, because now people know that they can reach out to you not only for your story and your travel needs, but also knowing that they're not alone in what they're going through, may have gone through, or
yeah,
may go through.
yeah.
So, all right, John, I'm going to let you go because we're coming up
I
to an hour,
appreciate it.
man. Thank you so much for coming
Has it
out
really
here.
been an hour?
Yeah, it's almost been an hour. Yeah.
Dang, man. Cool.
Yeah. These
You
are
are
so
a
much
great
fun. They
host.
fly by. Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
You did great. I didn't even realize the time, bro.
I appreciate it, man. So I'm going to have all the links and resources to contact John and follow John on the post below, whether you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, or your favorite streaming platform. There's going to be information to access and reach John and follow him. Definitely follow the LaFrance Paradigm as well if you're not already following or subscribed. John, what did you say your podcast was again?
The Tactical Traveler.
The Tactical Traveler. Yeah, I'm definitely.
Yeah, I'll send you my
subscribe.
link tree with all my links on it.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So, John, do you have anything that you want to close out and say before I close this out?
Man, thanks so much. And send me the link, because I'll put it on my podcast as well. And I'll post it in the Tactical Traveler group. Get some people to come over your way as well.
Cool. I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, John. This is Robert LaFrance. I'm going to end today's show with saying, try not to get distracted with kids wrestling in the background. But that's what I love about what we do. What I'm working to be home with my daughter all the time. I want her to be home and in the background. You know what I mean? So like, I love it.
I just need a better office, soundproof office.
Yeah. They say that the rising tide lifts all ships and courage is contagious. So help us, help you, help your friends. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks.
Awesome, man. Cool. Hi, Robert here with the outro. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you learned anything from what you saw today, drop it in the comments below so the next person can learn exactly what you did, okay? If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you always get notified and never miss the next video. Thank you so much again. I look forward to sharing more of my story and hearing yours. You know what they say, the rising tide lifts all ships and courage is contagious. So help me, help you, help your friends.